Nowhere near good enough from the boys in blue. Welcome back to Where the Town Walk with myself, Luke, and alongside me today we've got Ian and Rich. But it was another frustrating game, boys. But I think there was a few positives to take from it. But let's start with the first half, Ian. I think we actually looked not too bad.
Yeah, I think that first 20 minutes was a very open game. I still think we dominated on possession, but we looked like at any point Derby could have hit us on the break. So we started to get into the rhythm. But what for me was key on that first half was we didn't have to wait 75 minutes for Matusiwa. From literally from the first minute of the game, he was a much better player than I've seen so far for the first 3 games this season. So yeah, that was interesting. But I think there's a couple of opportunities in the first half to maybe, again, when we mentioned it last week, Morsy is able to dictate the pace. So we're still missing that. And I think that we always knew that we needed the second goal, didn't we? So going in at halftime 1-0 was okay, but I would have much rather had 2.
Yeah, well, correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, but I think we've now broke our own record of like 50 odd games without with no clean sheet. So it's right. We needed 2 goals, didn't we, to at least win that game in the first period. We needed to get a second goal.
Yeah, I thought Derby, look, they come with a game plan. They wanted, I think, to rough us up maybe a little bit, long throws, long balls. I thought for them, to be fair, Carlton Morris, I thought he was excellent throughout the game. And we'll probably talk about George Hurst, who I thought had another poor game. But once again, we've got ahead, scored from a set piece, which was nice. Mark Hudson, I see him out on the touchline there before, directing operations. And look, we scored. The goalkeeper made an error and Greaves has nodded it in. And I think if O'Shea's one goes in just before half time, Luke, I think it's 2-0. It's a totally different game. It's confidence. We spoke about it last week. And we're still a little bit edgy, and we see in the second half that somehow we've gone from, I'd say, pretty comfortable at 1-0 to somehow, I don't know how we were 2-1 down. I just still shaking my head and just wondering what the hell was happening.
Yeah, I agree. It seemed like from split second we're 2-1 down. It's all then we'll get on very shortly to what Derby were like in the game, but it got very, very quickly ended up into a low block, us trying to break them down. And I think we touched on it last week where we've never in our recent history, we've never been good at breaking teams down when they're in a low block. And that was just another game of not being able to break a team down. But especially, I think, so let's go to it, how Derby were, the amount of stoppages, the amount of head injuries, the amount of goalkeepers going down. It was, second half was the least entertaining game to watch, wasn't it, Ian?
Yeah, I got a feeling that the game was sponsored by Pelter, the crash helmet specialist, because I think it was at 6 stoppages for head injuries, and I don't think the referee got me, because the idea of the referee is they're there to enforce the laws of the game. They're not there to dictate the pace of the game, and he kept standing on the ball so he could write somebody's name down in the book. And in the laws, it says, play can continue while he's doing that. He would stop players coming on the pitch until there was a stoppage in play. You don't need to do that. And I think he really broke down any opportunity there was for momentum with us. That doesn't, change the fact that we didn't deal with those long balls. And if you look at the heat map, the majority of Derby's possession sat literally just in front of O'Shea and Greaves, whereas our heat map, not surprisingly, lots of movement down the left, not as much down the right-hand side. And again, I think we'd probably all agree that is a reflection on Jayden's ability to get the ball in, which he can't seem to do. But yeah.
Well, Jayden will touch. Listen, I am the last person that likes to, single out a player, etc. But there's a few that we will get into, and what do you think, Rich? Derby, going back to what we said about Derby with the stoppages, it was very frustrating to watch, wasn't it?
But when you go to a football match, look, we see it probably through our lens, don't we? But there's always 2 teams on that pitch. And the thing is, they sort of obviously capitalised on our mistakes, didn't they? Start that second half and got them 2 goals. And I know we can all sit here and we can moan about the referee and the amount of time it was added on, but that is on us a little bit, because we've given them something to hang on to with 2 really poor goals. I mean, we've given away. The first goal is just sort of a straight ball through the middle and it's a handball. The second goal, I'm not quite sure what O'Shea's doing there, because all he has to do is head that ball away, and it's simple, isn't it? I'd say at the minute where we are as a team on the pitch, we're making mistakes when there was no pressure on him to do that. When sometimes if you keep it a little bit simple, Dara O'Shea's in international football. He doesn't need us to sit on here and tell him. He'll know that he made a mistake. But once you give him a foothold in that game, and then, I've never seen a physio on the pitch so much for players who were not injured, and we knew they weren't injured. And where I sit near the away dugout, the goalkeeper's come over, I think, about 2 minutes before he's gone down. And you know that they've had a chat with him. But the referee kept falling for it, didn't he? Every single time. And it was just a frustration. You could feel it building in the stadium. But he didn't really cover himself in glory, the referee. I know last season we were all frustrated at VAR, but at no point did I ever think, going back to the Championship, the refs would be actually any better, because he was terrible, wasn't he?
He was awful. Ref had no control in the game at all. I think he was... Well, there's two ways to look at it. He either had no control, he had too much control, like Ian mentioned, where he was stopping the plays too often, slowing it all down. Listen, we also need to take a little bit of responsibility, I think, where we didn't build enough intensity ourselves, did we? And when we had the chance to, we still were very slow on the ball. What do you think? What needs to change for us to start getting that intensity back into our game?
So what was really disappointing for me, and it leads up into the intensity, is three of the players who have played the longest with themselves, who've been playing with each other for the last year, are O'Shea, Greaves and Palmer. And they, as it appeared to me, seemed to have the least kind of cohesion, the least chemistry yesterday. Like I said, the Derby heat map was just hit the ball long, put it on Greaves and O'Shea, draw them out of their comfort zone. Okay, other players who are new in the team or haven't played as much, they seem to be much stronger. So for me, the way to kind of stop that long ball is put them on their back foot. Don't let them have the opportunity, and that comes from not just exploiting the width, but then getting the ball in. We've seen Davis. In the Premiership, he kind of seems reluctant to do that. He's taking that mantle back on again. Although, as we mentioned last week as well, he's done this kind of inverse left back role, coming inside a bit more. But we saw on the right hand side, we do a lot of movement down the right hand side, a lot of huff and puff, but there's no product. And you can see where the ball's going. You can see he's going to go into the corner, and the longer he takes in the corner, the more they kind of sort out their back line. They had a back three supplemented by a 5-man midfield. So by the time you actually look to get the ball in, we're looking at probably 6 to 7 Derby men in the box. And you saw the difference of Ashley Young. When he gets the ball, he's quite keen to get that ball in there. Add to that the fact that we seem to have a problem beating the first man with the ball on those crosses, and these are stuff that can be worked on the training ground as well. So I think for us, really, we need to continue to exploit the wings, but we need to have something on the end of that. Product needs to come into the middle. George didn't have the best of game, but then again, he probably didn't get as much as he was expecting from the style we're supposed to be playing. And that's why people get frustrated when we go forward, the ball comes back, and we do this lovely little tick-a-tack ball between the central midfielders, and it doesn't seem to be ever going forward. And to add to the final thing, our most productive player was actually a central defender, and Greaves got the best passing stats, which is that's indicative of a home team who isn't prepared to maybe just go for it sometimes when your centre back is one of the highest producing passes in the game. So I think that's what we need to look at doing.
Yeah, I think Greaves put more crosses into the box than any of our wingers, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
Touching on, we'll go into the players a little bit now, and talking about intensity and talking about players, what comes to mind is Jayden Philogene. For me, I don't know whether it's because his style is so lackluster or whether he just doesn't actually have the intensity, but I do get frustrated with him, Rich. I think he's a player that if you're playing out wide, you get the ball to him, and I think Ian touched on it, where you get the ball, take your man on, put the ball into the box, but he doesn't seem to do it. He has no urgency about him, does he?
I think, body language, I think, is a big thing in football, and he is quite laid back, we could say. I think he's very frustrating. He'll get the ball, and he just seems to slow play down for me. Obviously, he's talented. You're not playing for England under 21s. You're not going to Aston Villa without having some quality about you. But you think that with him and Jack Clark, both of them players we spent 40 million on. And at the minute, we're not really. I know we'll touch on Jack Clark in a little bit. We haven't seen anywhere near the sort of returns that we want to. Going back to Ian when he was talking there about Leif Davis playing that inverted left back, I don't like it. I think it's detrimental to him. I think we're trying to accommodate Philogene in his role, and I think it's affecting Leif. And I don't want to sit on here and say that, Jayden, look, we're 4 games into the season, but you want to see some returns. And we've got a lot of players now, in a lot of them front positions. So you've got to pull your finger out. That's not just him. That's all of them, because they all should be under pressure for their place. And if you're not delivering, you go and sit on the bench and someone else has a go.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think another player that's I want to talk about, because he had such a good pre-season. I think we all know what I'm going to say is George Hurst. He had such a good pre-season. He was scoring goals. He looked like, not a different person, because he's always been a very, good player, but he looks higher confidence. What's happened to him, Ian? He started the season and it's all gone completely the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I really like George. I think he's a great guy, but he's never been one of these set the world on fire players. And even with his good pre-season, nothing was like outstanding, hit the ball at pace. I think back to Barnsley in the league, when we got promoted that time, and he stumbled on the ball. Even when he managed to break and score a fantastic goal, he looked really clumsy as he's running. So, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, George's job is to hold up play and allow the midfield to come through. And again, like we said last week, don't expect that many goals from your number 9. We're going to get the goals from the attacking midfield, and that hasn't happened. So, as much as maybe a couple of George's touches haven't been that great this week, and again, I wouldn't judge George Hurst on the number of goals he's going to score. I mean, what I'm going to judge him on is poor first touch or poor positioning. And yeah, it just maybe I think he is exposed when other players aren't producing the goods as well. So I think it would be slightly unfair on him to really single him out, saying, yeah, he's just rubbish, we need to get somebody else in. It's just the style we play. I don't think we are going to be. I mean, Delap was slightly different. He would just get the ball and run, wouldn't he? Whereas Hurst is being told, I think, hold on. But for the Philogene argument, for me, we had the same problem with Hutchinson playing the same role. So is this a player thing or is this a coach thing? Are they expecting something that just doesn't work? And maybe they need to review that style, because Hutchinson was doing the same in the Premier League. Everyone's going, pass the ball, beat your man. He would just hold it up, hold it up, hold it up. I mean, it's great with Ashley Young supporting that right-hand side, because he's quite happy to put the ball in first time. But it is frustrating when he takes the ball to the corner and, when we need that goal as well.
Yeah. I think the frustrating thing from a fan's point of view is we look at the team and we think, right, no matter what the manager is, trying to work on, because obviously the cohesion's not quite there yet, we still want to see effort. We still want to see, and also take a bit of ownership on yourself. And I think so. The next thing I want to talk about, which I think is maybe controversial, maybe not, but McKenna is a very systematic manager. And what I mean by that is he's all about his patterns of play and his tactics, etc. So right now we're in a position where we haven't got the togetherness, we haven't got the cohesion. So that means the patterns of play are not there, etc. So it's not a surprise that we're struggling in terms of that aspect. But do we need to, Rich? Do we need to look at the players and go, right, take a little bit of responsibility yourselves? And I don't want to say off the cuff, because they're all professionals, but a bit of raw sort of a bit ability and we all like to see a maverick in the game, don't we? And are we missing? Does McKenna allow that? That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Well, we're hoping, aren't we? Obviously, Nunes and Agueli are probably the 2 players that have got a bit of stardust about them, and they're going to maybe do something out of the ordinary. I think we touched on it last week, Luke. I think we're quite predictable at the minute, how we play, how we set up, and I think if you're in opposition, you'll know what we'll do. You'll know the formation we'll play. You'll know when probably the subs are going to come. And yeah, players, look. I was saying to the guy who sits behind me yesterday, it'll be the players who, if McKenna struggles and ultimately managers get sacked eventually, it's players who get managers sacked. But flip it the other way, I think McKenna is quite stubborn how he sets up, and that might be his downfall. But it is still early days. I know it's 4 games in. I look at it, I was looking last night and this morning. I think you've got, obviously, this is the first international break. You've got another 2, and that takes you up to November. We've got another 11 games in them 2 sort of blocks. I think that takes you to 15 games. By then, we'll all have a pretty good idea where this season's going. But it's wins that you need. It's like, I see another stat. It's 530 plus days since we've won on a Saturday at 3 p.m. at Portman Road. It was Sheffield Wednesday when we beat them 6-0. So it's just little things like that. And it's just one win. I thought yesterday, Derby, I thought, right, well, here we are. We're 1-0 up at half time. We'll win this game. I wasn't really that bothered how we played. It was all about getting a victory. I look at Leicester. Leicester haven't been great in the 4 games that they've played so far, yet they've won 3 games because they're finding a way. And I think you just have to find a way at the minute. You know, it's like we got 2 weeks now on the training field, but a lot of them players are going to go away. I mean, Egeli signed on Friday. He's come out there yesterday. He's probably on an aeroplane last night. I don't know where Norway are playing. And he probably won't be back till the week after next, maybe on the Tuesday. And then we're playing on a Friday. So he's not going to have a lot of time with him. But I think sometimes it is a bit, I don't want to keep hearing excuses we need time on the training field, because now he's got all the players that he wants. You know, will we add any more between now and tomorrow night at 7? Possibly. There'll probably be more going out. You might add 1, but we need to win games of football. That's what the manager is judged on. And you are hearing a little bit more noise now towards McKenna, but I think that's just football in general. No one's got really any patience anymore, have they? And no one wants to be able to, like McKenna he does need to build this team and rebuild a little bit. And I think when they were talking a little bit, I think they were maybe a little bit surprised how many players that they did lose in the summer. But I think there was always like, you're going to lose players when you go down from the Premier League. And it seems a little bit, I'd say just a little bit of like when Paul Cook was here and we had all them, was it 19 signings we made in that summer? But we need to get going, and we need to get going quick now. And there is some games coming up that we can win. But if I'm a Sheffield United player coming to Ipswich, and I know they're going to be under pressure, but if I'm their manager, I'm going to say, this lot, they're under pressure as well. They've won 4 games in 42. So players it's a combination of both, I think, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that you just mentioned, and I want to throw the question to Ian as well, because I know you enjoy the tactics side of the game, Ian. Do you think that because McKenna is such a systematic manager, do you think that the players are not using their own brain? Oh, that sounds so harsh, but do you know what I mean? Are they?
Yeah, I know what I mean. His assignments are quite strict because the way McKenna's system is, it's not 11 players; it's small teams. So you'll work on a diamond, for example, in the middle. You might work on the 3 guys on the right, and he works on these little systems, and then you put these little systems together, and it works. So if one system decides to do its own thing, it creates a weakness in another system within the team. So it's a different approach from some managers. Some managers will look at it more holistic, 11 versus 11. I always look at it in small sides. So, for example, when I'm coaching, I always like to bring in an extra guy. So then when I say to people, if you're going down the wing and there's 2 of you, just bring in that third person. It's not 11 versus 11. It's now 3 versus 2. And I say to a guy, in a little small side game, could you 3 versus 2 beat those? So, yeah, we can do it every time. 3 versus 2. I said, well, that's the mentality you got to have. So he's trying to build these mindsets on the pitch where players see they can dominate their own part of the game. The 2 centre backs and Palmer, they're the ones that got to really start working, because they need to dominate the box much more than they are at the moment. We need to see this connection on the wings as well. I mean, I hear people shouting out, we go 4-4-2. We need 2 up front. Again, a 2 up front system. He's done it, I think, once purely when we were struggling to get a goal and it was coming to the end of the game. I don't think he'll ever break his system to that degree. He has got that rotation. We've seen him go 3-4-2-1, which is what Derby did to us. So it'll be interesting what happens against Sheffield, because they're going to come very similar plan to Derby, I think, and quite aggressive team as well.
Yeah, well, it's come at a good, it's now the international break. Like Rich mentioned, we've got all the players together now. We'll see what obviously happens by the deadline day. From recording, it's about 24 hours. We'll see what happens with that. But they've got time now. They've got time on the pitch. Yes, obviously there's certain players that will go out into international for their international teams, etc. But he's got time with the majority of the squad. I think that we now need to. I don't know. Will never say McKenna out personally, but just because I love the guy, I love everything he's done. In my eyes, he is the Messiah. And I think that is probably why the fan base does give him even more leniency than maybe they would other managers. But is there now a point where maybe we look end of September, mid-October, and if the team are not gelling, not together, the cohesion's not there, what do you think the fan base is going to be like at that stage, Rich?
Well, there's a certain game in there on the horizon in about 5 games' time, and that could be the tipping point either way. Look, obviously where do we go? Sheffield United, and then I think we've got Blackburn away. Yeah. We've got Pompey at home, Bristol City, then Norwich. So that could be the tipping point. Yeah, I speak to people, and I think a lot of people are probably. I think in football nowadays, it is too easy just to sack your manager. And I wouldn't want to become like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because I think it's way too early in the season. Although, do we take into consideration last season and we won 4 games? Or is this a brand new season? It's a brand new team. But there's got to be pressure from above. You know, the owners, they won't want to see us struggling. And we're giving other teams a little bit of a head start. But then, I think we said on here last week, if you look at Leeds last season, they were quite slowly starting. And I think it's always a case of when you are relegated, you don't know where you are personnel wise, who you've got, who's staying and who's going. But there does have to become a time when you say, right, this is it. We are going to judge you now. But I think it's still a little bit too early. But that Norwich game, it could go either way that day, because hopefully we've had some results in the 4 games before then. But we all know what the record is against Norwich, and we all know going into that game as a fan, we'll all probably be a bit nervous, you know, as a fan, because we've not beaten them for so long, you know. And I think if you're outside looking in, you probably see the derby and think, oh, yeah, it's only Ipswich Norwich. But you've only got to see in the week when Nunes, that was revealed on, what was it, Thursday night? I could not believe it when I was reading it. I'm thinking, there's no way this is happening. But you've only got to see the feeling that caused. So that's going to stoke that game up probably another 20% at least. And look, we all love Kieran and we all want him to succeed, and because what he's given us. But I don't think we can keep going back to where we were 2 years ago, because it's a completely different setup now, isn't it? And player-wise, only just there's a handful. Wolfie's probably going to be the next one from the back-to-back promotion going out the door. So it's a new team, same manager, but we've just got. I just think we've got to keep our heads for a little bit.
Yeah, that was my take. I think we need, as a fan base, we need to be patient. I think McKenna is the right man. Like I said, we don't want to turn one of them clubs that sort of sells, sacks their manager left, right, and centre. That's not going to be any good. Especially after we've given McKenna, the license to get the players in that he wants and stuff. So yeah, I think that's never going to happen. I don't think anyway. I've got all faith in McKenna that he will turn it around. It's just going to take a little bit of time with the new team. And talking about new team, new signings, and when do we start? We have to start here with Nunes. He's come to the Pride of Anglia. He's here.
Just like Rich said, when that broke, I was like, what? And I kind of heard a rumour. And then I saw this video come on and Danny Haynes. I thought, oh, this is all they're getting fired up for the derby already. Then hang on a minute. It's like, this is actually happening. And it's like, I mean, sign him and keep it quite discreet and a bit humble. No. We're just going to get him. And then when he does a little wink at the end of it.
It's interesting you say that, Ian. Did you hear Mick Mills on the radio yesterday?
No.
He was basically saying that, because look, Mick's obviously old school. He sort of like to keep something like that. Even like when they signed him and on the social media, and yesterday coming out with the scarf and waving it around. They've probably told him to do that. I'm sure there's a little bit, because it looks great, doesn't it? But Mick sort of is of the old school of just keep it all a little bit calm, lads. But as fans, we love it, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, it had the Pride of Anglia, and then on that video, and he does a kind of quick wink, and even the blue boots. And then to follow that up with Sindri up on the top of the North Stand with a bloody big flag. I mean, that's it. I don't know if you know, Amazon sales of Viking helmets in East Anglia have just gone crazy. So I expect to see the North Stand all wearing Viking helmets from Amazon. That's what I want to see.
The Gelly, I will I will get his name properly soon, I promise. His announcing video was brilliant. I thought that was class. Being standing on top of the North Stand, I thought that was class. But yeah, it was crazy period, wasn't it? We signed Furlong and somehow got the Azon deal over the line. Rich, I mean, McKenna only said 2 weeks ago that's dead in the water, not going to happen, and there he was, came on against Derby.
The Shark. What's his nickname? Isn't it? The Shark. For me, look, I don't know a lot about him. I think that's a bit of a risky signing. Personally, I think I would have liked to sign someone who's a bit more maybe seasoned, who knows the league and can push Hurst now, not in 2 months' time, because he's going to have to come in. And I thought he looked okay yesterday. He doesn't mind a bit of physicality. I think he was getting stuck in. I think Furlong's a really smart signing. I think that's a really good signing. Obviously, another weapon is his long throw, so we could probably use that. Look, the Núñez signing, I think, like you said, the blue boots. They said I don't think he ever wore blue boots in his life, but I think he's obviously South American, and I don't think he gives a toss. I honestly don't. I don't think he. Obviously, if you watch the Onel Hernandez, he's been quite sort of vocal about it, but he sort of talked to him, and I don't think he cares. I just don't think he cares. I'm just hoping that it's a funny one, isn't it? Because they're saying, oh, he's one of our best players, yet now we've signed him. Oh, he was out of contract anyway. Oh, it's a decent deal. Oh, he's got a poor injury record. But he'll be judged on the football pitch, won't he? Because it was great for them 2 days to see Norwich fans' heads falling off all over the place. But we still want him to get fit, and hopefully when we come back from the break, he'll be ready to go, because I think he'd only got an ankle knock. So it's interesting where he fits in as well.
Yeah, very, very true. We're talking about a new blue. Let's go to a former blue. So it's time for Tweet of the Week. I'm not going to say the last word, but you can kind of gather what it is. It is Lewis Travis. You start that stamp on what? And the whole day. What do you think, Ian?
I'm actually friends with Lewis, and
well,
I was quite surprised. I was quite surprised when he started getting the banter going on the North Stand. Was like, look at my name, and I've looked back at that tackle on Kiyuste, and he said it was accident. There was no way that was an accident. And then even when he came off as a sub, he started to really kind of wind the crowd up, which I was quite surprised at, because that's really, I don't think that's really in his DNA, knowing the guy. But that was nasty. And we mentioned VAR earlier in the episode, so that would have been a red on VAR. But we have to also caveat that with Davis would have been off for the VAR red as well, because I don't even understand how Davis didn't even get a yellow card. But I mean, Travis, that's a red card. It's not required. There was no need for it to kind of lunge him his foot, especially as close to his face as it was as well.
Where you sit, Rich, you'd have been quite close to that, wouldn't you?
It's an interesting one, because if you see the ref's angle, I think he's literally looks like he's looking sort of straight at it. But I like Lewis Travis. I've got no problem when he came off. He's applauding the crowd, and he all 4 stands. The slowest walk off I've ever seen in my life. But I think we haven't even touched on the George Hurst penalty. I mean, the referee there should have been a red card there. When I first saw the Hurst one, I thought, he's looking for it. Oh my Lord, when I've seen it back, I mean, it's a dreadful decision. And then to cap it off, he gives him a booking for simulation, doesn't he? I couldn't believe that. And that's little moments like that do change games. And I know I see the Derby fans moaning about the amount added on time, but you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, definitely.
They got away with one massively there, didn't they?
Yeah. The ref had no control of that game, and they definitely got away with one with the penalty. Should have been a penalty for us, but will we get 3 points at Sheffield United? That's the last question of the show. Ian, are we going to get 3 points against Sheffield United?
Yeah, we need to leave on a high, don't we? Yeah. So for me, I was really pleased how Kiyuste and Matusiwa played together. I thought those 2 guys together really, really strong. They worked well with Chaplin. Chaplin is exactly what I think we need right now. His vision, his ability to spray the ball, but that dependent on those wingers doing what we said earlier in the thing. So I think against Sheffield United, if we play Ipswich football, we'll be fine. If we get brought into this kind of bottom of the table, we must win kind of clash where the emotions get the better of you, then there's going to be cards going everywhere. And I'm not sure who the referee is actually for next week, so I'm going to look that one up. But yeah, I think we play our game. We continue to dominate the passing. It might be frustrating, but if possession leads to goals 80% of the time as well. So we need to just keep doing that and don't get drawn into what is going to be a real high intensity game. I'm not sure the pace will be there, but it will certainly be the atmosphere wise. And it's a Friday night as well. We're not Friday nights like Important Road.
We love a night under the
We like a 97th minute winner, don't we?
Yeah, we do. What do you think, Rich? 3 points? Are we going to get them?
Well, it's interesting. They've made a few signings. I think Tanganga's there. They signed Danny Ings. It's all for me. I said last week on it. Defensively, we have to be better because you look at that game yesterday. Did Derby really open us up and create a chance? Probably not. It's all from our mistakes. And I still think, look, Wolfie's going to go out the door this week, and it's probably. I don't think he's covered himself in any glory how it sort of ended, which I think is really sad because I always remember the Luke Wolford interview. I think it was after Swindon during the COVID times, and he was close to tears in that interview. I remember they sort of throwing him out, and I thought, this is a bit poor. You've got senior players there. But I still think that we've spent quite a lot of money on them two centre-backs, O'Shea and Greaves. And I think individually, I think they're really good players, but I'm still not sure if they're a really good partnership. And I agree with Ian there about the goalkeeper as well. He doesn't fill me with that much confidence, Alex Palmer. He doesn't come for a cross. Don't think he's great with his feet. But sooner or later, we're going to have to keep a clean sheet, aren't we? And no better place to start than that game. We're going to have more options off the bench, you'd hope. And it's looking a lot stronger, but you just need a little bit of luck as well. But we need to, it's like McKenna touched on it yesterday and he's after the game. We do need to manage the game better because somehow, like we said earlier, that game got away from us and then we put ourselves in that position. But it'd be interesting if Hamer's still there at Sheffield United because there's a little bit of rumours obviously about him, if he might go out. And I still think he's a really good player. They've got some good players, Sheffield United, and they shouldn't really be where they are in the league, but they are for a reason because they've lost 4 out of 4. And we just need to be a little bit more creative, but we need to be patient with it as well and don't force the issue sometimes. But I think we'll get over the line, and a win's it just totally changes the mood, doesn't it? Really, if you could go into the Blackburn game away after that, you need to stack a few wins up on the bounce now before obviously we come to Norwich in about. Was it 4 weeks? Is it today? 4 or 5 weeks?
Yeah. I think very good points from both of you there. I'm going to end it on a positive note. I do think that even if there's certain players not there over the international break, I think it's going to be important to have that sort of time on the training ground with the certain players. And I also think just generally the transfer window being done, I think that's just going to bring a bit of calm and settledness to the whole team, fan base, everyone. So we're going to come out of the international break. We're going to get 3 points to Sheffield United, and we're going to kick on. And that's where our season's going to start. So thank you, Ian. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.